How are you? When's the last time I saw you, Zara?
So long ago. Maybe what, like 8 months?
So
Chicago?
when was Chicago? When was that? Chicago HYROX,
Mm,
November?
November. Oh yeah, November. It's actually not that long ago.
But then the very next month, I was at Athex and
You were.
Kate was there, but you weren't.
I was. I know I
How
wasn't.
dare you?
I'm sorry. I wasn't able to show you the UK, was I? Birmingham.
And since then, I've watched all seasons of Peaky Blinders, so I'm so excited to go back to Birmingham.
It is such a good show, I'll give you that.
Not sure I'm thrilled with the final season. Be honest,
No?
no spoilers, but
Thomas Shelby, what a character.
what a character!
He
So
doesn't talk like that.
it's how you talk.
I don't. You always put on these ridiculous accents of me. That's not how I sound.
How do you sound? Where do you sound like you're from?
I don't know. I don't really feel I have a strong accent. Everyone always thinks I'm Southern, but actually I'm from like East Midlands in England.
Okay, so what town is that near?
Well, town, it's called Stamford, a place that I live, but it's close to Nottingham, which is the biggest city.
Okay. Well, I saw nothing of. I didn't see anything. I went for a little run, and other than that, I was just in the hotel. So yeah, you'll have to show me. But if I come back, I may be coming back to FitFest.
Oh, cool. When's that?
That's in December, same time as last
Okay,
year.
nice. And is that in Birmingham as well?
Yes, can you put it in your diary?
I will. I'll pop it in my calendar. You love it. You only ask us Brits on these podcasts just so you can take the mick
Oh,
out of our accents. That is the only reason.
I love it. I'm an Anglophile. I love English accents. What can I tell you? I always have since I was a small boy, and now my kids love it. My kids do it too. My youngest son River, he watches all
Mm.
the football, and he's always like, Peaky Blinders, Harry Kane. He loves all the football. You know what I mean?
Does he ask you for a cup of tea,
He
Daddy?
doesn't ask me for. He hasn't done that yet.
Okay,
Are you big in the
it's coming.
football
Yeah, because my husband plays, isn't he?
professionally?
Yeah,
Do I
you
know
know
this?
this.
I did.
You did from the last podcast when we spoke, and I was like, my husband plays soccer, and everyone was like,
For who? Who
it's
does he play for?
football.
Who does he play for?
Stevenage. So
Stevenage.
they're
So
in, yeah, so they're in League One, which
okay,
is two below Premiership.
okay. So if they, what's the opposite of relegate?
Promotion.
If they
Promoted.
promote twice, they're in Premier League.
Yeah, that's
Oh
right.
well, we're gonna have to talk then. I'll have to get River on the phone, and we'll have to talk.
Okay. But I mean, it's sad. They were in a playoff position, so they were close to getting into the playoffs, but it's looking less likely now. So they're going to stay in League One, I think, for next season.
Okay. And what position is he mostly?
Centre back.
Centre back.
There's a lot of heading.
Do you watch a lot? Do you travel a lot with him or no?
I try to go to as many home games as I can, but when they're too far, I mean, HYROX takes up so much of my time. Saturday is a key training day for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, husband. And he doesn't.
I'm
And
an
he
athlete too.
right. And so that's why he doesn't come. That's why your girlfriend Kate is like your best mate because he's out playing with the boys.
Exactly. But my dad comes everywhere with me. You haven't actually met my dad, have you?
Unless maybe that first time where I was talking to you guys in Chicago, maybe.
Yeah. So my dad comes everywhere. He's like second coach.
Okay. Well, that's amazing then. Just super athletic family you've got over there.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, from a nutrition perspective, Carl keeps me on the straight and narrow. Like the craziest thing we have in our cupboard is probably cashew nuts.
Crazy.
Super boring, but if I had chocolate or crisp, we're just not allowed chocolate or crisp because I would just eat them all.
Can I have a crisp, please?
Can I have a crisp?
So we would also eat nothing but super healthy because my wife is super healthy. Is for example, I just made myself a delicious burrito bowl for lunch. That's what I have most days for lunch
Mm,
and or dinner.
nice.
Because she preps a ton of food. But my kids eat garbage, and occasionally I will eat some of their
Just
garbage.
pick. Hmm.
If it was up to me, they would just eat what we eat. But my wife is in charge of cooking, and she doesn't want to hear them complaining all the time. So you pick your battles, and they eat garbage.
You've got to live a little as a kid, right?
Well, no, it's listen. They eat. It's not even garbage. Just like just stuff I can't eat. So, for example,
Yeah.
my wife just made this like fucking freezer tub full of pasta, right, with red
Hmm.
sauce, which is amazing, right? And it'll last for a few meals, but I can't have red sauce. I really shouldn't eat that much pasta. You know what I mean? Like I can have like a little bit with some butter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just about, portion control. And when there's a giant tub there, it's so hard to just not.
Oh, it's tough. I think, do you know what? That's one thing. So my husband does a lot of the cooking. I'm really lucky. Like I am top cleaner in our house, but Carl does the cooking. But portion control, he thinks I have a similar sized stomach to him, which I probably
Mm,
do now because I have been eating in this way for so long. But it's like woman versus food every night for me for dinner,
mm.
and I demolish it all. So
Yeah, and it's, I know that people listening, will struggle with this as well about then we get into the perfection, right? So
mhm,
I do most of the time weigh the protein. So
yeah.
so I put 4 ounces, a little bit more usually, and then I just add a couple ounces of rice and then whatever else we've got, bean, like few, right? But like if I do that for a couple days, I feel great. And then like, oh, the one day I don't, and I'm with a friend or something, and I'm just eating, then it's like, oh God, I've blown it. You know what I mean? It's just that crazy perfectionism, which I know women typically struggle for a lot more than men. But I can tell you, as an older man whose metabolism has slowed down considerably, I'm very conscious. And you know what else is like? People in the world don't even like they just don't even understand it, right? So
Mm.
if you're at a function and there's cookies or cupcakes or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, well, you could have one." It's like, right, I could, but then I'm gonna eat like shit the rest of the day too because I had the one, and they just don't quite understand it.
Exactly. No, I get that. And do you know what? Being an online coach, I have a lot of clients that stress about this idea of perfection, of eating clean all the time, of training 100% every single week. But actually, if you think about it, the 80-20 rule, or even 90-10 if you can, is absolutely great. And you tend to find you're so much more happier. It's so much more sustainable. But I get that too. Like, I'm surrounded by probably people, friends, and family that don't have the same goals as me, that don't have the same drive and motivation. So would probably look at the training that I do or what I eat and go, God, like, do you not just get sick of it? Like, don't you just want to go and have a McDonald's or something like that? So, people are just used to different things, aren't they?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say McDonald's is one of the things that I would want, but, like, a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, fried chicken
Yeah.
would be delicious,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they look at you like, "Why are you on a diet?" They would say
Mm.
even. It's like, "Well, I'm not on a diet. I'm just choosing to consciously put good things in my body
Hmm.
because I want my body to last a long time."
Yeah, I even find it after a race. So, for example, Sunday afternoon, finished racing, and the first thing I had was a pizza. I love pizza. So, I had Parma ham pizza, and it was amazing. And then when I got home, treated myself to a couple of things that I haven't had, bits of chocolate and stuff. And whilst it was great at the time, actually, the following day, I felt rough. With carbs, they have obviously, they make you retain water, you feel a lot more bloated. Like I was ready to get back in that gym and ready to have a good few like vegetables and good protein straight away. But it's also important to give yourself, the opportunity to kind of reset and have the things that you enjoy when you do go and accomplish things. Like you have to live a little.
Yeah, and I do like that 80-20 or
Yeah.
even 90-10 because I do forget that, and like I said,
Mm.
if I happen to slip or eat something that I'm not proud or whatever, then I tend to like, well, it's all over. And then I go into this spiral.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the first last chance qualifier. Contradiction in terms. The second to last chance qualifier.
Yes, let's do it.
So did you have a mindset of, I want to win because winning is good, but I also want to win because, gosh darn it, I do not want to have to fly all the way to America again?
100%. Of course. I mean, look, I would have done anything that I could to be on that start line as part of the Elite 15. So if it would have meant to have gone, I needed to go to Anaheim, I would have gone. But you are so right. I learned from kind of being in Chicago, it is a long way from home. You're so out of whack in terms of,
Anaheim's even farther.
I know, but it's funny because so Carl finishes playing football very soon in terms of the season's over. So he was so excited. He was like,
To
"We're going to
America.
LA, baby. We're going on holiday." And I was like, "No, we are in the mindset whereby I'm going to qualify in Cologne, and then I'm not going to have to think about the other last chance qualifier." But going back to your mindset point, yes, I genuinely, and I talked a little bit about this on my social media, but I went into Cologne genuinely, wholeheartedly backing myself and believing that I would qualify on that day. And that's not, I didn't kind of sit there and pull it out the air and just manifest it. I knew I was going to qualify because I'd put the work in. I had really solid training blocks.
Important part of the manifesting is doing the work.
Yeah, exactly. Do not forget that part.
Yeah, I think people, it can apply to other things too. You know, you can't just like be in the closet at home and pray you get a job. It's like you got to actually do the footwork too. So you can speak your mantras, right? You can speak positively, you can put all that good stuff out in the world, but yeah, you got to do the footwork. So
100%.
so this event comes, and how are you approaching it? Let me just put it to you this way, because you've stood on a lot of start lines with a lot of good gals. For this one in particular, what was there anything kind of different about your approach or different about how you felt that morning or standing in the starting corral?
I suppose I didn't feel any different apart from I just kind of was so set that, and I understood there was a job that needed to be done. Like, obviously, that race was very different from a lot of the majors I've been a part of and other races because time was irrelevant. It didn't matter what time I did it in, I just needed to come one, two, or three. I suppose strategy wise, I learned some good lessons at the start of the year when I had some poorer races relative to me, whereby I tried new strategies like going out really hot, like pushing my ski and pushing stations that probably weren't arguably a strength of mine. And then I couldn't sustain it for the middle or back end of the race. So I had those learnings and I knew for me, and I spoke about this even before I raced, the kind of middle to back half of the race is always been my strongest. And there have been some stations I've put in a lot of work in my training. So I guess I went into that race thinking I couldn't go out too hot. I knew I'd raced against a couple of the girls, and that was an advantage from my point. And I knew that they would go out really hot in the ski in the first couple of runs. And you know what it's like? It's super, super hard when you see people ahead of you to not get carried away and to almost take your foot off the gas a little bit and think that it's a long ass race. It is not going to be won on the ski or the first, second, third run. So that's what I had to keep telling myself. And even on the ski, I just remember saying the same thing, like just concentrate on my technique, get good breath and that nice catch and recovery, and not worry about what everybody else was doing and what they were pulling on the ski. So that then I could focus on kind of the middle half and the back end of the race, which was my strengths.
Yeah, I mean, isn't everyone of like, unless you're a master, like you come to it as a master, isn't everyone pulling about the same? when it comes to the ski. So
Yeah, I get maybe.
no
But,
need to kill yourself on the first run of the first ski. Just kind of
mm.
right.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different when you get to the majors, though, when you have the group of women that are very, very powerful, and they're holding probably anywhere between 5 and 10 seconds above your 500 pace. And even on that second run, they're already 40 seconds ahead of you. But fortunately, in this race, because there were so many athletes around me that were quite similar in time, I knew going into it that there wouldn't be, unless I didn't know of them or someone had a ridiculously good ski on the day, we would be quite close anyway. And I backed myself in my running that I would be able to catch up on any sort of time that I'd lost at the front end of the race.
What do you like to run? What do you like to run your 1Ks?
Splits wise,
Yeah.
as kind of close to early fours as I can probably
Do
across the
you
board. The first one's always quickest, right?
yeah, do you look down at the watch, or are you just going by feel?
I go by feel. I've never actually used my watch to kind of track where I am in the race. And some people might say that's crazy because they're really data driven and perhaps I need to be more data driven. But I just go on feeling. I think I've even in training, obviously, I work to certain paces, and with my coaches, I drill those paces in constantly. So I actually can afford then to not be so worried about checking my watch all the time and feeling where I am and seeing where I am in the race.
And I'm sure you told me, but remind me again of your athletic background. Are you a soccer player or a swimmer? I forget.
Yeah, I was like a jack of all trades. I did netball, football,
That's right. You
swimming.
told me about netball. That's right.
Yeah, oh yeah, I did because you didn't know what it was. Yeah, just team sports. I just did everything growing up as a kid, and then because I running has always been a part of those, I guess, sports. I was just always good at it, and always the engine stuff, the grindy stuff. I really enjoyed. So, and then strength wise, did a bit of CrossFit. Quite enjoyed that. Loved going to the gym. So HYROX is the perfect blend of all those things.
So where were you after the push?
So after the push, I believe I was about sixth
Really?
after the push.
Okay.
Yes.
So then on the
hmm
runs coming
hmm
into the pool, where were you?
Fifth, maybe. I think I maybe gained a place on that next run.
Okay.
But then the pull was a really strong station of mine. I and it was funny because I think I was in fifth next to Jezebel, could have been sixth actually, but I managed to catch up obviously with the top three Germans and put myself maybe third or fourth coming out of the pull. It felt, I mean, I have been working on my pull, and I'll be honest, the new equipment I was super impressed with how everything was moving, how the rope felt, the wall ball and stuff. But yeah, I surprised myself on the pull. But I also put it down to, like I said to you, I didn't go all out on the ski or really push. On the push, I was probably breaking into halves and then thirds to try and obviously reduce that lactic buildup so that then I had the energy just to continually keep moving through that pull rather than taking too many stops.
So on the push, how many times did you stop?
Think maybe I did the first two in halves, and then I think the last two lengths I had to do in threes, which isn't, I like to try and do everything in halves, but that did, the sled push actually felt quite heavy. That was probably one of the tougher stations. I was surprised at.
Were you overly conscious? There seems to be this big controversy currently about the pulls and the penalties for the pulls. Were you overly concerned with where your feet were?
Yes, massively. Because I remember in Stockholm, I got one warning. And I don't think I'd ever got a warning before. So I was like, oh my goodness, it was frightening. And then I was next to Jezebel. And I remember I could hear the judge give her the first warning, and I knew how much the penalty was. And yeah, of course. So I just had to make sure it's tough, right? Because you're obviously just looking at the job in hand. It's so difficult to kind of be looking forward and constantly seeing where your back foot is sometimes. Like it, but it's just too big of a penalty that yeah, I just had to focus on what I'm doing.
How could we fix that, do you think?
It's hard. I mean, I know the question was asked, do you think that the penalty is too harsh? But there's a box. It's difficult, right? I don't think you can fix it. I think that is just the standard, unfortunately, and just
I mean more from the stance of, like, could they put something there? Is there a piece of
mm,
rope or something that is just clearer? Because they're asking you to have eyes behind your head,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
not
I
setting
yeah.
the athlete up to win. I mean, listen, it's the same for everybody, so that's good, and as long as the judges are equally informing and giving the warnings, which we hope happens, but
Mm.
it seems I don't know what the solution is, but it's a lot.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, maybe a piece of material or something at the edge of the box could work. I don't know. But it's tough, and I really felt for Jezebel because I was next to her when she got that penalty, and it massively changes an athlete's race. It puts you back so much, and even you know what it's like from a mental perspective when you're thinking you've got an even bigger mountain to climb now because you're having to do extra on a station, and it's giving you more fatigue. So it was tough. Yeah, I felt for her.
Yeah, and we saw Alondra at the World Champs that happened to her.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. It's tough, right? I mean, even on the burpees, I saw some stuff on social media with the judges, and I know the judges they don't have an easy time as well. There are lots of stations that it's down to kind of their decision. There aren't unfortunately standards that can be carried across every single station perfectly, and they are volunteers. But again, I felt some athletes got a really rubbish deal and they got big penalties that again that just massively affects their race.
Where did you take the lead for good?
On the lunges, so Kate and I and Yana, I think we're very close in the lunges, all picked up the bag kind of at the same time. But that's my strength. That is my favorite station.
Let's go!
Being a long-legged gal,
Let's go!
I just had to go. Yeah. Yeah. And you can see, when you get to the lunges, you can you see the finish line. You think, come on, two more stations, that last glory run. And I've been working seriously hard on my wall balls as well, because that was one of my probably weaker stations across a few of the majors that cost me a few placements. So it was really nice to go into that wall ball station feeling confident in that rather than dreading the next 3 to 4 minutes, which I had been doing for so many races.
Like, dreading it?
Yeah, dreading the wall ball station because I just never knew how I was really going to perform because I just hadn't done too much like compromise work on them. So it was honestly luck of the draw, which sounds crazy, but now I feel that I have turned them into a strength. And the only way you get better at stuff is just by continually doing it over and over.
So, Kate and I talked a little bit about the idea of, um, times kind of going out the window for these races because it's really about placement. And we still don't know about these courses and what's the same and what's different. But this was a PB for you, so that feels good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Feels
By by
great. Yeah, absolutely.
by how much?
So I did a 103, like a 104 basically in Stockholm, and this was like a 102.25, so like a minute and a half.
102.45 actually.
45, sorry,
Sorry,
a
just
minute and
pulled it up.
15. No, all good.
Um, but again, I feel like, we used to, like, for the men, it was like, oh, the sub 60 barrier was this big thing, and now it's just like we don't even really talk about that anymore.
Well, I mean, everyone's getting faster, right? It's crazy. Even in all divisions, I know there was quite a few world records in Cologne at the weekend, but it just seems to be we set this kind of bar or ceiling, and then someone goes and smashes it, and again, it's just continually lowered all the time. You just never know what's going to happen. It's great, and there's so many people coming into this sport from different backgrounds that I just think the time is going to be continually pushed, as well as the courses that some may differ slightly from others.
Do you think HYROX should ever change?
Oh, that's a very big question.
That's what I do. I ask the big questions.
I mean, if we talk a little bit about the qualification system, for example, this season, I think it's been great. I think I really enjoyed, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved in a lot of the majors, which has given the sport and obviously the best women a lot more exposure, an opportunity to race against each other. So I really enjoyed that, and I think that's a good setup. And also with the last chance qualifiers, I couldn't really, I have thought about it, but there's not really a better way that I think it could be done, because you couldn't do it on time, because unfortunately there is just going to be discrepancy across the courses, the length of things, and that is the fairest way to do it on the day. It's tough. And I know you spoke to Kate about this, because there are so many unbelievable athletes that turn up on the day, and it's just based on that one performance. And actually, if you looked kind of holistically, there are lots of athletes that have an unbelievable season over races. So I wouldn't change anything specifically about that part. Would you?
No, I like it. Well, and again, I talked to when I talked to Alex, I said, we're talking about records and now we've changed the equipment, right? So
Mm,
if I did something in 2022, should I compare it to what I did this year,
mm,
right? And then same thing with the qualifications, right? Like if we change the equipment middle of the season, it's not quite the same. Um, I think they've got it really right with the last chance qualifier. And I think as long as they roll down appropriately, which it looks like they are, now it's going all the way down to 40. So
mm,
as long as there's enough roll down to get people that deserve to be in, people with good time, because we talked about this even earlier in the season, even before the last chance qualifier, everybody that's in deserves to be in. Nobody didn't,
mm.
right? My question is actually, should we just keep these 10 stations in this 10 order, in this order for, I mean, in 3 years, you've done another 30 races. Do you think you might want to maybe we should switch this thing up?
Cool. Yeah, but what station would you bring in? I've heard people talk about bringing in like the assault bike, or even changing the order of stations, whereby you might go and start with 100 warbles. I mean, that would be horrendous, but pretty exciting and cool. But I don't want the assault bike to come in. You have things like DEKA FIT too, that are quite almost like a spin off, I guess, from HYROX, aren't they? And I know more people, it's only kind of just coming over to the UK. I guess more people are dipping their toe in to see what it's like. But
Well, I just saw an ad on LinkedIn that they are hiring affiliate salespeople over there.
okay, that's
So
interesting.
so if you're listening to this and you like hybrid fitness and you want to make money and you think it's cool to get gyms involved, that's what they want, which I'm guessing is just knocking on a lot of doors and calling gyms and saying, "Do you want to be a DEKA affiliate?" Um,
Mm,
I don't think I don't think changing stations. I think first just change the order. In a couple years,
mm,
let's say, all right, guys, we're doing, maybe always keep wall balls last because it's such a mother effer.
yeah,
Um, kind of that's kind of like a kind of a signature thing. But I
it,
don't know, maybe mess up the order a little bit. And then a couple more years, maybe you add different stations. But the idea of repeatable and then going back and beating the time, like that is what gets people to come back, right?
yeah,
But does that only work for a 2 to 3 year period? I mean, we're going to find out. We're really early in
yeah.
this thing. But are people like, I've done 6 of these, or I've come the last 5 years, it's come to my town. I don't want to do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the only good thing is because HYROX has so many divisions, it's not only doing solo, you can jump in with a friend, or you can go and do relay. So there's always really good opportunity. And I also think that the training for HYROX lends itself to so many other hybrid kind of sports and races, etc. So I don't necessarily think they would have to change the race. I think actually people might just continue to, do a couple, then maybe move to a different race and come back. And, there's always the opportunity to try and beat your time.
Do you, if you talk to people outside of your immediate friends, do they know what HYROX is? Because it's grown so much in the past couple years.
Yeah, I think people are starting to know what it is. I mean, my gym only know what it is because they see me training crazily. And it's funny because when somebody says, "What is HYROX?" and you're like, "How long have you got?" Like, I'm gonna be here like 10 minutes explaining all of the stations. But yeah, definitely. It's so big in the UK. For example, Birmingham sold out, I think, in like 8 minutes. And everyone is going. I'm in a couple of Facebook groups on the socials and stuff, and those tickets go like hot potatoes. Everyone wants one when they're sold out. So
Do you know who's
I'm
a big
just
fan? Do you know who's a big fan from Birmingham?
who.
Arthur from the Peaky Blinders.
I love Arthur. Actually,
Who doesn't love
he's one of my
Arthur? Who
favorite.
doesn't love Arthur? Poor bastard.
Poor bastard.